Many people in the streetwear industry credit the Hundreds as the first brand born on the internet. Many also consider the Hundreds as the first big brand of the new wave of streetwear that then ushered in the current generation of success stories. If you listened a few episodes ago, you'll hear Samuel Ross from the uber progressive collection A Cold Wall credit the Hundreds as one of his early inspirations. And through it all, the Hundreds were led by their two co-founders, Bobby and Ben Hundreds. When I reached out to Bobby about being on the Business of Hype, he immediately said, "Oh, you need to get Ben on this. He's actually the one that runs the business side of things." And like most business people, Ben is pretty behind the curtain, while Bobby is the front man. And I like talking to co-founders because it basically meant that even early on, the two people were smart enough to recognize that they couldn't do it all on their own. I always tell people who start businesses now to find a co-founder that can do the things you're not good at. And I say this because I started Staple on my own, and I always wish I had a co-founder the entire time. So it's a rare treat to have both guys on the same show, the creative guy and the business guy, the dynamic duo that makes up the Hundreds. From HYPEBEAST Radio, I'm Jeff Staple, and this is the Business of Hype, a show about creative entrepreneurs, brand builders, innovators, and the realities behind the dreams they've built. All right, so let's start the interview. Let's give a brief introduction of who we have sitting here, your names, and what you guys do.
I'm Bobby Hundreds. I am, I guess, the Chief Creative Officer of the Hundreds, which means I just kind of oversee all the creative stuff.
I'm Ben Hundreds. I'm the President CEO of the Hundreds. And I guess I make sure that the wheels are turning on our bus.
I feel really special that Ben is at this interview. Because he's like, he never gets on press.
Very rare. And everyone, obviously I'm the face of the brand.
Yeah.
And so everyone wants to come to me and listen to what I have to say. But what they don't know is like, Ben is the buried treasure, that they're
Bobby
not
keeps me hidden, sure that nobody tries to steal me.
I need it, I'm like general release, and Ben is like tier zero, he's like the very limited edition.
Yeah.
So when you get it, it's like you'll appreciate it.
Right.
Hang on to every word.
He's Nike Lab.
It's called. Yeah, exactly.
You're DSW, man.
Yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with DSW.
No, so the story goes, I asked Bobby to do this podcast about the Business of Hype, and you're like, let me transfer you to Ben Hundreds now. Business? No, that's not me. I thought it'd be great to have both of you on, and Ben, I hope you feel free to chime in on your experience and your side, because this show is really, there's plenty of shows and there's plenty of things out there for the creative visionary marketing face dude and the kid who wants to become the face of a brand. But having you here gives us the opportunity to figure out how, as you said, the wheels keep turning, how this car keeps gas in the engine.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. So I don't want to dive too deep, but I think we should, just for the people who don't know, into the history of the brand, because that could be found, and I know kids can just Google this, but let's talk about those early days. You guys are the co-founders of the brand, right? Describe back then, sort of, maybe if you can bring yourself to the point where the Hundreds wasn't even yet formed as a corporation, or maybe not even a name, but you two thinking, let's do something. Go back to those days. What was that like?
I mean, it was, we were in school then, right? And so we didn't really know what we wanted to do. I think we were both in law school, and I think Bobby and I both knew we didn't really want to be lawyers, but we were both in law school I was in law school just because I had nothing else to do really, and my friends were going to law school, and I'm good at taking tests, so I got into law school, and that's really why I went to law school. And when we met, there aren't too many kids in law school like the two of us.
Yeah.
And so we immediately bonded. We became really good friends over that first year. In law school. And so over the summer, towards the end of the first year of school, we're like, hey, Bobby's like, I'm thinking about starting this project. I'm a writer, I'm a blogger. I have my website, bobbykim.com. You should check it out. And
I lost that domain, by the way.
What was bobbykim.com doing?
Bobbykim.com in the late 90s, early 2000s was a platform for me to just put all my creative stuff. So it was my art, my paintings, my photography, my writing, and then my blog, which started right when Blogspot and Blogger launched. When Evan, who did it? Was it Jack from Twitter did that? I think, or whoever. It was his first thing. So that's when blog launched, and I was like enamored with the idea of blog because I came from this world of punk rock zines, and it was a free way of doing a zine, and with a much bigger audience.
Yeah.
And back then you didn't track analytics or statistics, and you had no idea how many read your blog. So it was even more liberating, and I felt like I was just singing in the shower. You know, so I was just writing every day, like, this is what I eat. And I know it's like super annoying now to see people's like food on their Instagram, but at the time I'm like, this is what I ate. This is where I skated today. This is who I hung out with.
What were you doing in law school?
Why did I end up in law school?
Yeah.
So I came from the freelance world. I was doing freelance art, writing for magazines, and then 9/11 happened, and I couldn't get work anywhere. And so I traveled to Japan, and I lived in Japan, and that's when I really fell in love with streetwear. And I was living with my girlfriend in Japan at the time. And while I was there, I was just like, I can't keep this lifestyle up. It's like, I can't make enough money. I need a normal job. And everyone was like, you're pretty argumentative, right? You have an opinion on things, and you like to write. You should go to law school, which is actually the wrong advice. If you like to write, you should not go to law school. If you like to creatively write.
Yeah.
I like to creatively write. And so I went to law school, and I also had this interest in activism and political stuff, social causes, and so I figured, I could like get in on the inside and break shit up.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So that
be
was
the inside man on
be
law,
the inside
yeah.
man.
Right.
I was like, I can create real change. So those were the two reasons why I went. And then lastly, to make my parents happy, right? Because they were like, they'd given up on me, and they're like, okay, you'll be a lawyer, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So that's why I ended up.
Did the two of you graduate?
Yeah.
Okay, so you both graduated, but you formed the idea in what year?
First year.
Oh.
At the end of first year. The
Freshman
summer
year,
between
okay.
first year and second year of law school, we started the company. We
Okay.
launched the company the summer of 2003, July 2003.
So Bobby tells you, I have this project idea.
Yeah.
What was he pitching you?
It was I have a project. I can design t-shirts, and and I have a website. We'll have a website, and I'll tell stories about the t-shirts, and that's how we'll sell the t-shirts.
And were you like genius?
And I was like, yeah, sure, this sounds like fun. And you know, we were both really big on Nike Talk back then, and I thought we could put our shirts up on Nike Talk, and we'll figure out how to, you know, market it on Nike Talk, and we'll get it into a couple stores, and we'll go from there. And that's like basically how it started.
Was he already like defining like, I need you to help me with X, Y, and Z?
No. I mean, still, it was
Because
never.
you're not an artist, right?
No.
Okay.
Still, well.
Secretly.
I mean, still to this day, Bobby and I have never like said like, Bobby, you're in charge of this, Ben, you're in charge of this. I think that from day one, it's just we've fallen into our roles, and whatever needs to get done, one of us will figure out how to get it done.
So I want you to comment on this, because I've heard from many people who have partnerships. One of the number one reasons I hear with a problem when it comes to partnerships is exactly what you said, where it was like the business guy starts dabbling in on the designs, the design guy starts telling the sales guy what stores to sell to and not sell to, and like people not knowing their roles.
Yeah.
But that sounds like that wasn't a problem for you guys ever.
No. Well, Bobby and I really respect each other, and I mean, we both have egos, but with each other we don't have egos, and if he needs help, if he sees something wrong with the business and says, Ben, I think we can do this better, and proposes something, sure, I'll listen. And I do the same with design. But both of us are really good at both sides of the business. I think that Bobby can handle doing business great. He's much better creatively, but that's not to say that Bobby can't run a business on his own. 100% he can. And so, you know, I think we're lucky that we have a partnership where, the number one key is really respecting your partner and listening to them. Do most partnerships work? No, I've seen a ton
Yeah.
not work. And, we have lots of kids that have worked for us that have started brands and have had partnerships, and I've seen them falling apart because of the exact same thing. Like, they don't have their roles
Finding a partner is like as hard
really
as
hard.
finding a spouse.
Yeah. It's the same. We're married.
Yeah, we're married. We're more married than we are to our own wives.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds.
How's the sex?
Just like marriage.
Never happened.
Yeah.
But wait, I wanted to ask you now, like when, you being the creator and the face of the brand, why didn't you ever think, I could do this on my own? The hundreds could be 100% mine. I don't need a partner.
Because I know I can't. I know my limitations, right? There's like that Hyro lyric of like MCs should know their limitations, and like I live by that. Like I know, I do. Ben is right. I think I'm pretty proficient at business. I'm pretty shrewd enough. I think I'm better than a lot of other quote unquote business people out there. And the same for Ben. Like I think he's one of the most creative people I've ever met. But he's a business guy.
Yeah.
So we have this empathy with each other. Like
it's like a yin yang.
It's a yin yang.
Yeah.
And there's been, of course, there are times where we really butt heads, but we know each other well enough to where, like, if we're both fighting for something, there's usually one person that wants it more than the other, and then you just lose that battle.
Yeah.
And it's like, you
For
know
the
what?
bigger prize.
For the bigger prize. I mean, first and foremost always is the brand. And so we respect the brand so much, and we want to take care of the brand. It's just like, if you really, really believe that that's the right choice, I'll trust you with it. I think because we always put that first, the relationship is fine.
And did you just say, like, we're 50-50?
We're 50-50. We're just straight down the line 50-50. Yeah. Because it's invaluable, I think, what Ben brings, what the business side does for the brand, and vice versa. I think where a lot of creative people and designers and artists get it wrong is that ego of thinking, oh, I got this. I understand how to do the business part. There's so many nuances to Ben's job that even I don't really glean. Like I can't process I think I can do it. Oh, I could probably do that. No, like there's like his brain, the way it's like operating 24 hours a day. Like I don't have the bandwidth to do that. So.
A lot of creatives think like, this is my brand, my vision. If I'm going to bring in a partner, it should be 80-20 me, and they go in with that foot forward.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that, for anybody listening to this who's thinking about bringing in a partner, I've also heard that 50-50 partnerships are dangerous because you just stalemate all the time.
Right.
And any argument or disagreement ends up being a tug of war, like from an equity standpoint, where if it's 51-49, there's at least a winner.
That's interesting.
Wow.
You ever heard that? I've heard
No.
50-50s are horrible, or like 2 seats on the board are horrible. It has to be 3 seats on the board.
Yeah, that I've heard.
Yeah.
That you got to have an odd number on the board.
You can't vote, and it's like stalemate all the time.
Yeah.
So there's
That's
like,
interesting.
do you ever get to the point where you mentioned you've butted heads and stuff, but has it gotten really, really like? Can you remember a very harsh moment where like you're like, man, this is bad. This is really bad.
I'm writing a memoir right now, so there is this part in my book where I talk about the one fight where we did have, and it had to do with selling to a store. But the thing was, it wasn't that Ben necessarily wanted to move the business in a particular way either. It's like we were both having a hard time understanding this next phase and appreciating this next phase. But I took it really hard just being the creative person and not understanding like this is exactly what we have to do for the business. Because I was so nearsighted in terms of I only saw what was in front of me, not understanding the greater picture. And so, I mean, that was kind of vague, but there have been instances where it happens, but we have to get over it. Again, like so many people are counting on us to just get over this, right?
Yeah.
It's like our staff, the kids who are buying their clothes from us, like, it's not just our thing, right? Like it's not just Ben and I, like we're maybe steering the ship or stewarding, but everyone else is down there rowing, right? They're like, come on guys, like figure it out. We got to go. And we've got to keep moving forward. So,
so you convinced Ben to sort of come with you on this ride of this project that you have.
Well, Ben looked at the project and was like, hey man, like I know how to make money, and that's something that I've always been really terrible at because I don't approach any of my projects from thinking about money, which is the most important thing. I mean, we're really talking about, this is the business of hype, right? We're talking about business. I'm not a business guy. Like, I'm just an artist. I like making stuff. I like the process of making things, and that's it. I never think about, like, how can I sustain it? How can I actually, like, make a living doing this? Like, that never enters my mind.
Just passion first.
It's just passion always. Still. You know, like, I'm just like, I want to make all this stuff, and Ben's like, where's the money in that? And I'm like, I don't know, I don't care. Like, I just want to do it. And he's like, well, how, you know, it's not practical.
The Hundreds brand is over 15 years old now, and the two co-founders are still there, still grinding away. Do you know how rare that is? Somehow, through sheer luck, Bobby and Ben are the perfect partners. They even said it themselves. They're basically married. Finding the right partner is a very careful balancing act. Like in any relationship, it's knowing when to push, when to relinquish, when to walk away, and when to have that hard discussion. Ideally, you find the partner that complements and supports all your weaknesses, and your strengths support everything that your partner doesn't have. Oh yeah, even after you find the right person with all the right skill sets, you still gotta sort of like the guy. You have to personally get along with this person. You have to be ready to share hotel rooms with this person, to spend over 60 hours a week working with this person. You will see this person more than any other person on the planet. So choose wisely. And don't make this a flippant decision. As you'll soon hear from Ben and Bobby, what they have is sort of magical. So this was my question. Where was the money to start up the Hundreds? Like, what did you do? Just credit card loan?
Yeah, it didn't take very much for us to get started. We had maybe a few $100 each to get started, because all we needed was just some T-shirts to get printed.
Yeah.
And we had our first shirts were, we had a friend who had a printer at a screen press in his backyard in his shed. It was one of my brother's friends, and you know, he didn't charge much. He didn't even know what the hell he was doing. You know, we didn't know what we were doing either.
Yeah.
You know, and so I mean, the first shirts, if you still have one of our first shirts, like the neck label on the shirt is sewn by your, like, an aunt or someone.
No, it was
right?
Mises' mom.
Mises' mom's, yeah.
My wife's, she was my girlfriend at the time. It was my girlfriend's mom. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't know how to relabel, and we didn't realize we had to do that. And she, like, broke out her old, you know, sewing machine. And
it wasn't. I mean,
it
everything was low budget in the beginning.
And that's the beauty of streetwear, right? Like,
yeah,
all you need is a T-shirt, and you can build an empire from that. Yeah.
I mean, it was T-shirts, and then we eventually found after he messed up our first round of shirts, we asked around, we found like a real screen printer. Who we ended up using for many years, and you know, we'd buy the T-shirts from downtown, take them over there. Bobby would design the shirts, go with them to work with him to make sure, you know, the shirts look right, and you know, we'd buy blank hats from downtown and find an embroiderer to embroider our hats downtown, like very, you know, DIY. Like you figure out how to get it done.
Oftentimes, I hear, so that part is like, especially today with like these Zazzle cafe press, like, you know, DTG printing, it's even easier now, right? But I often hear now kids start off their own brand, they make their stuff, and then they get a little bit of demand, and then they start making like more, and then season 2 comes, and it's like, well, I'm sitting on a lot of shit right now, right? So did that point come where like you started making stuff, and then it started to get scary with the amount of stuff that you needed to make?
It didn't for maybe a couple years. And we were really lucky at the time we started the business because we were in school. So we were in school, and we didn't have to make money to live because we were in school. Like, what rent was paid for through school. I had taken out student loans my loans and Bobby had loans, whatever it is, covered our school and my living expenses. So we didn't need money to live off of from the brand. So whatever money we made, literally it just went right back into the bank account. And so every season would get a little bit bigger, like whatever profits we made from the season before just is there. So we didn't really have to take money for maybe a couple years. And then I think we each went to our parents and we asked for like $1,000 or something, like we needed like a couple $1,000 or something like that. And both of our parents are like, well, you guys are idiots, you're in law school, what are you talking about? But okay, here, if you want to continue with this dream project, I don't know why you want to do it, here you go. And
it was all, for me, I remember it was all my savings. Like I asked the money that they had saved for me in case I ever got married or was going to buy a house, and it was only like a few $1,000, but they're like, this is all the money that we saved for you. You can do whatever you want with it because you're of age now. And I'm like, I'm going to dump it all into this t-shirt company. And they're like, what are you talking about?
And so
that was it.
And so we had put a little bit of money into it at that point, and it just helped get it a little bit bigger. But I mean, look, the beauty of being in streetwear is it doesn't cost a lot to make a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And you sell it for a lot.
Yeah, the markup
And
is
so
good, yeah.
you make a lot of money selling t-shirts. And still to this day, that still holds. We're making a lot of money profit back then. You're still making a lot of profit now selling t-shirts.
Yeah.
So it was nice. We used that money to just continue to grow the business until it got to a point where it was, all right, we need to get a bigger warehouse. We need to get an office. We want to, so on and so forth.
So in college, you opened up like 100 business banking accounts?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like second year in college?
Second year, not in college, in law school, grad school.
Okay, grad school. Okay.
Yeah.
So you opened a business bank account. It's like the same account that you have today. It's the same hundreds.
Basically, I mean, we're still with Bank of America. Yeah, basically.
This podcast has been sponsored
by
Bank of America.
Yeah, I had worked.
The hundreds was sponsored by Bank of America.
I had worked at the bank while I was in college.
You worked at Bank of America?
No, I worked at Wells Fargo. I worked at Wells Fargo for a couple of years.
Okay.
And so I had the experience of, I know what I needed to get done in order to get the business going.
Yeah.
And
so let's break this down since you have the experience. So what are the things you need? If you went from printing t-shirts and you're selling them, and people are either paying you in cash or PayPal or writing you personal checks, how do you now go to become a business?
Being legitimate, you should probably get a business license.
In your state, right? That's
Yeah,
by state,
yeah.
And by the way, you just go to City Hall and get that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. You can
and it's
Google.
cheap.
You can do it you can do it online now. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think it's very.
I walked to City Hall
Yeah.
and did it, but yeah, it's like
I think
cheap.
you could do almost everything now. You can do online. You can even open up a bank account online now, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
So.
Yeah.
For a business that small, I don't think it's very hard to do that. So you go to Board of Equalization. Here you go to Board of Equalization, and you get a seller's permit, seller's permit, business license.
And you get that license
gives
account. You what's known as a EIN or tax ID number.
No.
Oh,
so
okay.
EIN, that's when when you form a corporation.
Okay.
So you still if you're just by yourself, you're still going to be probably a sole proprietorship. You don't need to really set up anything super tech. It's just under your own social security number, and you have your own. You yourself are the business.
Right. Your personal social security number that you were born with is also the business number.
Yes.
But there's danger in that too.
Once you get to a certain size,
if someone sues the company, they're actually suing you.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the three basic things: you need a bank account, you need you need a seller's permit, and you need a business license.
So that's good advice. And then let's fast forward a little bit to you guys graduating. When you graduated, where was the hundreds at in terms of size of business?
Dollars wise?
Yeah.
Maybe after our second year in business. Maybe we had done $60,000 our second year in business. Wasn't very much.
T-shirts and hats, right?
Yeah, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, all printables and some embroidery stuff.
And was there direct e-com business yet, or you're all
yes, we started that from the get-go.
Okay.
We always had that, and of course, it wasn't very big because online shopping wasn't that big yet. But we definitely did some online business. Absolutely.
Did you do a trade show?
Yep. We did our first trade show. That's 2004. After
While
our
you were
first
still in school?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We
Which
did
trade
Agenda.
show? You did Agenda.
Yeah.
One of the first shows when it was in LA.
Yeah. Might have been his first, maybe his second show.
I think it was his second show.
And it was at the Calmart in LA. We walked in there. We didn't have hangers. We didn't have a rack. We just had a box of T-shirts. Aaron looked at us what the hell's wrong with you guys? He went and got us a rack. Went and got us hangers. Our shirts were all wrinkled. It was incredible. We had no clue what we were doing.
We're still like this, right? We're just we were walking to a place where we kind of didn't belong and we were uncomfortable, and so we were just defiant and just were like, fuck it all, you know? Like, we just walked in with like, let's not even steam our shirts, like, we're just gonna be, you know, the assholes of the trade show, you know? And this is why Aaron gets a lot of credit, was he was just starting this trade show. He was young, right? We were all young. Ben and I were 23 or 24. And we walk in literally with like a box, like we're carrying a box of t-shirts, and that's it, and some photocopied catalogs. And Aaron walked over to us and just shook his head. He's like, you guys, where's your rack? I told you guys you need this, this, and that. And we had never even met Aaron before. He kind of like cold emailed us, hey, you guys, I'm starting up a trade show. Will you guys do a trade show? We're like, whatever. And so he grabs us a rack, like Ben was saying, and he sets us all up. And then he literally started like bringing buyers over to us. And later in the show, and at that time the show was like 3 days. Do you remember? It was like the slowest 3 days of my life. It was so boring. There's rarely a buyer walking through, but every time there was a buyer, he would grab them, bring them straight to our booth, and be like, "Buy from these guys." And the buyers didn't get it because at the time the popular brands were like the urban labels, or like LRG was really cool. Echo and LRG were like the thing. That technical 555 soul kind of look. And we had what we make today, right? Like starchy, boxy t-shirts with like colorful graphics and stuff like that. And that was it. No cut and sew. And the buyers didn't get it. But Aaron was just like, watch these guys. These guys are the future. Like, he literally said things like that as he would bring the buyers by. Why does this guy believe in us so much? Like, he doesn't even know us, you know?
Yeah.
But he knew. Like, he always knew what was going to happen next. And he just saw that everything was going to go that way. I don't know. I've never really asked him why he thought like we were going to be the ones. But there was like 25 brands at that first show, and it was us and 5-4, I think, are the only ones that still survived.
Damn.
Yeah.
Really?
All those brands are gone. And there were really big, cool brands when we were there. Like, what was the one with this star? Uppercut? Is Uppercut still around?
No, Uppercut's is it Uppercut?
I think it was called Uppercut. there were these brands that had full cut and sew, denim ranges, Astronaut. Like,
Astronaut, I remember.
Yeah, that was, what's his face? The graffiti guy.
Yeah. Trickster.
That was Trix's brand. Like, so anyways, there's really cool brands.
Yeah.
That we were like, we want to be like them. And none of them exist anymore. We do, you know.
If you're talking to a kid now, 2018, and he's asking you, should I do a trade show? What's your advice?
I think it depends on the life of your brand, like where you are in your brand cycle. I think if you're like really a brand new kid that's and you have been making shirts or putting a collection together for like a year or two, and you have some momentum and you want to grow your business, I think that the trade show still has a place. I don't think trade shows are dying. I think there's a purpose and a reason for it still. I think that we're going to see a change in the trade show business in the next few years, because all these brands, all the brands that are like the new streetwear brands, you can only get so big with direct to consumer. I think that there's still a place for wholesale. You hear it all the time. Wholesale is dying. Retailers going out of business. I don't believe that. Sure, wholesale is dying. But it's not completely dead, and I don't think it's going to ever completely die. I also think that you need retailers to help market your brand.
Yeah.
We sell to a shop in Milwaukee, Moda 3. I don't know how else I'm going to get to a kid in Milwaukee, or years ago when no one knew who we were. In Milwaukee, they would never find out about the hundreds, but because of Moda 3, we have a fan base now.
Yeah. I also think as a brand, you can't just exist on a screen.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that trade shows still have a place. Are they as important as they were years ago? No.
You're also talking about like it's a dying industry. And it's a diminishing industry, but it's a diminishing multi-billion-dollar industry. So now it's single-digit billions. Like, you don't want that money? Okay, fine.
So I like, if you're a brand new brand and you're just starting out, do you need to go to a trade show? No, you're probably going to get no business. You're wasting your time. Are you a brand that's been in business 2 or 3 years and you're looking to grow a little bit and you think you could use some help getting to some other shops that you might not be able to get to? Yes, going to a trade show probably is a good idea.
Do you remember your first employees?
Yeah.
Of course.
When did you decide the two of you were like, all right, it can't just be the two of us. We need help. When did that happen?
It happened at different points for both of us. Ben is really good at delegating and being a manager, so he realized it right away.
Did you have an employee in college, in grad school?
Yeah, we had a couple while we were still in school.
Scotty's story.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
Really?
Scotty story is great. Scotty came around when we were still in school.
Yeah?
Yeah. Scotty, he emailed in. Go ahead, I'll let you tell. You tell it better than I do.
So it was just Ben and I. We had an employee. Actually, at that first agenda show, there was a girl sitting next to us. Her name was Amanda. She was at another booth, and she was just like, "Do you guys have a sales girl? I do sales. I'll sell your brand." We're like, "Okay." And then she worked for us for like 2 months, and so that's technically Amanda Hundreds was our first. But when Ben and I were in the first couple of years, and yeah, we were still in school, we would get random emails every now and then, right? No social media, so an email would come in through info, and maybe one a couple days, you know. And the only one I really remember was this kid emailed in, and Ben used to sit outside in my living room. I mean, it was just a studio apartment, so there was like the common area, and then there was my bedroom. I used to work in the bedroom. Ben would sit outside, and
The bedroom that you slept in.
Yeah. Oh, my commute was like 3 seconds because I would just wake up and sit at the desk, you know. And so Ben was like, "Hey, someone emailed us," and I was like, "All right, what does he want?" He's just like, "It's a kid. He wants to know if he can be a part of our street team," and I was just like, "Tell him we don't have a street team," and he's just like, "Okay," and then
Wait, I love the fact that you get an email and you're like, "Hey, we got an email."
Oh yeah. That was a big deal.
Right.
It was like someone knows about us out there, you know. And this wasn't like this wasn't like 1 week into the brand. This was like 2 years into the brand. You know, it was just like, oh my god,
Bobby,
yeah,
we got an email.
it was totally like that. That's exactly.
I'll tell you,
that's
this was.
how it
I remember this was after our first year. This was probably like a year and a half into our brand.
This is why it's so
amazing.
This is why it's so frustrating for me to watch these young brands and designers who get frustrated by not excelling or growing fast enough.
Or you hear kids like, "I only got 500 likes on this photo."
Yeah.
Like, deleting. Like,
Exactly. And I'm like,
That's 500.
what?
If you had those 500
Dude,
people in a room, you'd be like scared shitless.
Exactly. Exactly. Like they don't understand. They can't quantify that.
Yeah.
But for us, we really value and appreciate every single person. Like anytime a kid like writes me an email or letter, like I really appreciate it because I know what it was like to go for 2 years without getting an email.
Okay, so
this
guy
kid
wants to do a
emails
street
in.
team.
He's like, "I want to be on the street team." I'm like, "Tell him we don't have a street team." Ben's like, "All right." And then 10 minutes later, Ben's like, "Hey, he emailed back." And I'm like, "Who?" He's like, "The kid." And I'm like, "What does he want?" He's like, "Well, he said if you don't have a street team, can we send some stickers and he'll post them up around the valley?" I guess he's from the valley. And I was just like, "Well, we couldn't afford to make stickers." So I was just like, "We don't have stickers. Like maybe we can go to school and like photocopy some flyers for him. Like I'll design a flyer just for this one kid, okay? And like I'll go to school. I'll use like the copy machines in school and like photocopy flyers for him, so we can send him flyers." And he's just like, "Okay." So he tells him all that, and then we ended up he's just like, "I'm gonna be at the Basement," which was this hip hop venue store in the valley. And this kid happened to be this guy, Scotty, who was 15 or 16 at the time, a big Nike top player. And he was just one of those guys, you know, the kids in our scene who start off really early and just get like jaded and like are just like, they know everything way too fast. That was Scotty at like 16. And but anyway, so
I guess he didn't start at sales then. He started as promoter.
Scotty, he didn't really start for us, but he was just always around. And then whenever I needed help, "Scotty, can you give me a hand? You know, I need to help pack boxes. We got to get orders out. Can you help give me a ride here? We got to move. And then it was just like, after like a couple of years, I remember I went to Bob and I was like, "Hey, Bob, I think we need to start paying Scotty." And Bobby's like, "What? What do you mean we got to start paying him?" And I was like, He's like, I think we got to start paying him, man. He's been working for us for years, and the guy works like all day, every single day. Like, I think
he was like Milton in Office Space. Like he just kept showing up, and no one was just like, you know, you're not getting paid to be here, but he would just show up every day.
And Scotty, I mean, he loved us. He still loves us. He you know, fine. I gave him. Bobby's like, "All right, how much are we gonna pay him?" I was like, "I don't know. We'll give him minimum wage. Well, who cares? Like, he'll be fine. You know, but we got to give him something."
And then I was like, all right, minimum wage is fine.
Wow.
And so that was like Scotty was like pretty much our real like first employee
And
that
he
like
lasted with us.
lasted with us for 12 years.
And he ended up becoming...
He worked his way all the way through. Scotty did every...
highest paid employee in the company.
Yeah, Scotty did everything.
Like, the alternate face to the hundreds.
Yeah.
Really.
Alternate face to the hundred. Especially people who knew our brand back then, they knew him as... I mean, some people think he is the hundreds. Because he was the guy who dealt with all our accounts.
Right.
And so if you travel around the country and say, who's the hundreds, they say Scotty.
Scotty, you travel around the world and you ask about the
around the
hundreds,
world.
you would say, a lot of people would say Scotty.
He's always been cooler than Ben and I. He's always known the cooler people. He was like the cool guy of the brand.
What's he doing now?
He's not working right now.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know.
He's a free bird.
Yeah.
He retired?
No, he's working on some other passion projects.
Okay.
He's got like 2 or 3 other passion projects that he's working on, and he's enjoying life. He worked really hard for 12 years.
I mean, he was a kid and he started working for us, and so it's almost like he didn't have that chance to be a young person figuring it out. Like we kind of like we were like his 2 dads.
Yeah.
And we're like, you're just gonna do this for 12 years, and now I think he's just like, hold on, I want to figure out what I want to do now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fun to watch.
This story of how one of their first employees, Scotty Hundreds, came from being an annoying email fanboy to becoming the highest paid person in the company is so awesome to hear. Dude even now has the ability to take time off and just chill. It's cool to hear this because on this podcast, we often hear stories about the founders, but now we get to hear the story of one of the 100 soldiers who rose through the ranks from literally nothing. That's what really sets street culture apart from every other industry. I mean, we're by no means doing Greenpeace work out here, but the passion and sacrifice people make from the top to the bottom is pretty amazing, sometimes even for free. But I have found that people who really believe in it and really invest their time and energies do get rewarded. Yeah, it might take longer than if you work for Wall Street or a hospital, but this ride is a hell of a lot more fun. So from that first employee, how many employees do you have now?
Today, the hundreds is at about 50, right around there.
Does that ever scare you?
No.
Does it scare you?
Not anymore.
Bobby?
It doesn't scare me. There was a point where we were we're bigger than that. We were at like almost 100.
Yeah.
And that was scary for both of us.
Yeah.
We didn't like that. We like where we're at now, but when it was nearing 100 employees, I didn't know everybody's names.
Yeah.
Lots of HR issues, lots of administrative, and my job became... I mean, I'm the creative guy. Like, I should be sitting in a corner drawing. Like, my job became like listening to people complaining about their chairs, or, like just managerial, administrative stuff, which I'm not good at. Mm-hmm. You know, Ben and I are both like kind of just, figure it out guys. Like, we drop you off in the deep end of the pool. We'll come back in a year, see if you're swimming. Yeah. If you are, we'll swim with you. Otherwise, if you drown, like, sorry. Mm-hmm. That's how we learned how to boss. Yeah.
What other disadvantages are there of having too big of a company or too many people on the staff?
Oh man, things move so much slower.
You would think that with more help they should move faster.
No, they don't. Just I've learned it. I was telling somebody earlier today that I went around to the office a couple of years ago and I said less is more, and you can do so much more with less people, with less space, less. You don't need, just because you have more employees doesn't mean you're going to sell more. Mm-hmm. Just because you have a bigger warehouse doesn't mean you're going to do better in business. Just because you have more stores means you're going to do better business. You can do a lot more with less. And we're very happy with where we are now. Mm-hmm. But things definitely move. When you have a lot of employees, there's way more cooks in the kitchen. There's way more people on the ladder to get up to get things done.
And when you've hired these people, you hire them because you want to hear their opinion in some way, right? So now you got to hear
everyone's
100 people's opinions, and you got to, even if you as an owner are like, whatever, we're gonna do what we want, you still have to field them.
Yes. You have to massage egos.
Yeah.
So you're in a phase right now where you're deliberately condensing the size of the company.
We've done that already, and now we're at a place where we're happy, and I think we have a very good staff, very good team. We have the right amount of people, and we want to keep it at this size for as long as we can.
How many years has it been now? The whole.
This year will be 15 years.
Okay.
This summer will be 15 years.
In that 15-year time span, was there ever a moment where you guys were like, let's hang this up? Like, this is as far as we're going to go.
It happens constantly. It's probably happened through like, I mean, it wasn't like we're done, but there were, a few years, starting from a few years in, there was a lot of discussion of like, people wanting to come in, right? That's usually what it is. It's like so-and-so wants to come in and invest or own half of it or, partner with you guys. And so lots of meetings. So that discussion is constantly coming up. It's just like, wait, is this how we're ending,
Which is a good way to exit, no?
Always. I mean, it's always good to think of your exit strategy. Ben and I never really had a very clear exit strategy, just like we never really had a clear mission statement. It just kind of like was, you know, like the hundreds just happened and like we never really had a plan for it. And so every time these meetings and these opportunities come up, it's a good time for us to kind of check the temperature on ourselves, on our personal lives, our careers, our legacies, what we want, how the business is doing. And in the end, we've always said no, right? Like we've gotten kind of close sometimes, but then Ben and I will look at each other like, is this how you want to, do this right now? Or are we ready to exit at this part of the game? And, at the end of the day, like Ben and I have always said no.
So
up
15 years
now.
In, it's still 50-50.
50-50, yes.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah. Ben's dad has a little chunk of the business because about 8 years in to the business, he started getting some loans for us. And so, and he's been our accountant also, Ben's dad. And so because he had always provided some business acumen and insight for us, we gave him a sliver of the business, but theoretically it's 50-50. So, yeah.
I mean, you've been in this industry enough now where you've seen brands either sell or bring in like a foreign, outside partner. Has it always sort of just like scared you? Like, have you ever seen it happen and you're like, man, that's like the worst thing they could have done? Is that why you hesitate to bring in an outsider?
I mean, that's definitely part of it.
It's rare when it goes right.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
very rare when you're
yeah.
like, wow, way to sell the company. And now it's even better than before.
Yeah.
I've almost never said that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever said, I've almost never said it. Yeah.
Curious to see what happens with Supreme.
Yeah, I think Supreme is going to be the biggest like social economic experiment that we get to see unfold in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Supreme will be fine. I think it'll always exist. Maybe not at this magnitude or this level of cool, but I think they'll be like somewhat cool forever. They're very good at staying measured and composed as a brand.
You do too, Ben?
They're not going anywhere anymore. Like,
really?
I think that they have built a foundation, and I think that could be a house that'll last in fashion and streetwear, youth culture. I think that it'll.
You think this is our LV, like
our
fashion house?
Sure.
That stays?
I think it can be. Yeah.
Wow.
I hope so. Honestly, I hope so.
I hope so
when
too.
you have a business that big, it's really hard to go to zero. I mean, you just said it, right? Like you want to be part of a billion dollar business. Well, okay, now it's only worth $1 billion, right? Like Supreme, same thing. This is a $400 or $500 million company. Like you can't. They're going to continue to grow.
But you know as well as I do that it doesn't have to go to zero for it to be bad. It could.
Oh, like, are you saying like bad taste level wise?
Like,
I mean, for me, that's already happened,
right? Yeah.
Like, I don't wear it anymore.
Okay. So is that what you're saying, Ben?
Yes. Yeah.
You're saying it'll be around as a business, but not necessarily the desirable hype business.
Yeah. I mean, look, Louis Vuitton comes in and out. Gucci comes in and out, right? These high fashion brands. No one was wearing Gucci and Louis Vuitton 3-4 years, maybe even 2 years ago. No one even thought of wearing that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And now on HYPEBEAST, that's all they talk about is Gucci and Louis Vuitton, right? And in 2-3 years from now, they probably won't mention it again, and it'll be the next thing. And so I think that's what'll happen to Supreme too, that it'll always be there. Do I think it'll have its cool moments? It'll come in and out like every few years, like the rest of these, big brands. But
you don't think it'll be like Ed Hardy or like
I don't think
Von Dutch
I don't think it'll be Ed Hardy or Von Dutch out. No, I don't think.
I don't.
I don't think that they'll. I don't. I don't think that there's too big of a foundation Supreme has for that to happen. Those like Christian Audige and Von Dutch, like those things.
They didn't have the foundation.
Yeah, I don't think so. That was just
Trend.
trend. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the foundation is what matters the most. If for a lot of the people who are just finding out about Supreme and they're wondering like, why are people paying this much? It has nothing to do with what you're looking at right now. It has all to do like everything that happened in New York in the '90s and the early dunks and like all that stuff is what amounted to what happened now. Like no brand can come in right now, like a brand new company, and do what they've done. Like, it just takes time.
Yeah, 25,
right?
30 years.
30 years. So they have time on their side.
Yeah.
And so I think that will be the thing that keeps them around for a really long time.
I'm less sure than you are.
Really?
Yeah, I'm less certain.
Why?
I feel like if you're put yourself in the investor seat, right? So you've valued this company at $1 billion. To me, the big question is, can the brand get to $1 billion? That's question number one. Question number two is, let's say the answer to that is yes, we can. When $1 billion plus worth of people have bought Supreme one time, will that happen over and over again, year on year?
Right.
Like, I think when you see $1 billion worth of people wearing Supreme, the big question mark is, does that deflate what Supreme means now?
Yeah, but okay, so it will, right? And it'll come down.
So then year two, can they repeat?
No, I don't know. Maybe they could do it for a year. Maybe they'll do it for 2 years, and then it'll be a little bit less, and then it'll come down. It'll come down, right? And then it'll get to a point where it bottoms out a little bit,
right?
And then it'll come back up, and it'll be back on trend, and then maybe they'll come back and they'll do $1.5 billion in 6 or 7 years. Right?
It's Bitcoin.
Well, actually, Stu sees a model that has done that. Like, they've sort of rode high, then deliberately deflated, and then came back, and they sort of ride this wave of just in and out, this ebb and flow.
Yeah.
I mean, Frank's been doing it long enough, right? Longer than any of us in streetwear, where he's almost mastered. He's how to ride that wave. And so they've done a really good job of that. Absolutely.
I mean,
I don't think they've ever gotten that big though, not Supreme big.
But their time in it is so much longer. Like, they're like almost 40 years. And just consistent, And I've heard of them saying like, we want to go down by 20 million this year. Like, we need to. We're in trouble. It's like the most
Who knows how much
thing.
truth there is to that, but sure. I mean, I would say the same thing.
Hence,
if I had that opportunity.
Ever since the news of Supreme's investment went public, this has been the #1 topic of discussion among streetwear heads. Will Supreme continue to do what it does 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Especially with the expectations and pressures of being a company that is valued at $1 billion. What we're seeing here played out live in front of us is a test on the theory of supply and demand. If supplies are limited, demand goes up, and Supreme has found success in keeping the supply pipe very, very tight. What happens now when that supply faucet has to be opened? Will the demand be able to remain? The thing is, if any brand can defy those odds, it's Supreme. So not only do we have front row seats to see what happens, we get to see it with the best possible contender. I'd love to hear your opinions. Leave a comment or tweet at me with your thoughts. So let's talk about like the culture in general right now. Do you think there's still a place for a kid silkscreening t-shirts in his basement right now? Is there still is this still a viable business for him to enter into?
I don't know if there's as much opportunity and mileage out of to get out of a streetwear brand the way that we did it today. But I still encourage all kids to do it because it will be a foundational stepping stone for you to get into whatever it is that you really want to do. Like streetwear, starting a t-shirt brand is the easiest, fastest, a cool way to get into business, but
and it's just fun.
It's fun, you know, like you can see it happen. It's marketing, it's advertising, logos. It's like marketing, advertising, setting up the business side of things. It's social. It's like, you know, it's all of these things, and it's very low barrier of entry, right? And so we know like chefs and property owners and people in tech, right? Like our friends when we go to Silicon Valley, and like the guys at Lyft and Airbnb, and like all these guys came from streetwear, right? So it's like if you need, if you're looking to get into business and you don't know how to do it, like do it this way. Same again, like to bring up Bitcoin. You want to get into money somehow. You want to learn the stock markets. Bitcoin's like a fast, easy way to like figure out how this stuff works, and then it'll like open up this whole new world to you, right? So I think it's just it's an easy way to get into business, and everyone should do it.
Do you agree, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. I everything Bobby said, I agree with, and I do think that kids should. There is space for kids. The tricky part for me is I don't know if I would tell a kid, do this because you're going to make a lot of money or you can make a lot of money. I would tell a kid, if you're going to do it, make sure you love it and you want to make t-shirts. Like Bobby and I didn't start the business and start the hundreds because we're like, we're going to become rich and we're going to travel the world.
Nobody was rich,
you know.
back then.
Like we started this business because we loved what we were doing. I loved having a clothing company and making t-shirts and selling t-shirts and getting t-shirts in stores and seeing people. I still love it.
Yeah, me too.
You know?
Yeah.
And so like that's really why we started the business. I never thought, neither one of us ever thought like, oh, we're going to be able to buy a house. We're going to be able to support our families. Oh, we're going to be able to support lots of people's families. You know, that was never our goal or our intention. It was, let's see how many people we can get to wear the hundreds.
Do you still get geeked when you see a random kid wearing the
hundreds? Yeah. I have. You could look at my phone. I sneak up. I sneak up behind kids.
It
or
sounds
I'm like,
so wrong, by the way.
Go on. You sneak up behind children.
And you take photos of them. And look at this folder of photos I have of it.
Sometimes I'll ask. Sometimes I'll just, when they're walking away, I'll just snap a photo.
Yeah, it's still, you get the goosebumps. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really
like in my head, it's still, you know, me and Bobby in his apartment and Scotty's still packing boxes. And so if I see a kid wearing it, I'm like, how'd you get that? You know, like, where'd you get that from?
Like,
how do you even know? You know?
Right.
I still like it, you know, and then I'm like, oh, wait, snap out of it. You're not that anymore.
They were like, I got it for sale at some store or something. And you're like, okay.
Do you think a lot of young people getting into this think of like that financial finish line now? Like they get in thinking like, I see Nick Diamond driving a McLaren.
Yeah.
This is how I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
Interesting, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that kids, I think a lot of kids get in, and I mean, look, Nick has a big audience. He's wildly successful, one of the most successful in our world, and kids look up to him, and they see Ferraris and Bentleys and flying private, and they're like, you know, something, I'm going to do that too. I want to do this because of that,
right?
You know,
and it's like, and you think about it from a kid standpoint. They see a diamond T-shirt in a mall. It's not that hard to design that T-shirt.
Yeah.
So they're like, I could do that, and if I do that, I get the private jet. That's what you're saying. They just see A and Z. They don't see any of the letters in between. You know.
You know, when we were starting, and you remember this too, like no one was making money in this world.
No.
So we didn't do it because no one was driving a Ferrari. Like we were looking at, you know, Russ in the back of the Sur shop, you know, with like 4 Japanese art designers on computers and smoking and, you know, making a couple T-shirts, and we're just like, that is so cool. Like I didn't look at Russ and go, he's driving a Ferrari, he's driving a mansion. I was just like, wow, he's just like making art, putting on T-shirts, only making a few of them. Wow, they're high in demand.
Selling them out of his shop.
The coolest people in New York are wearing Sur. That's what we wanted, right? That's why we got into it, and we had no idea of like, wow, we can make like $100,000, $100 million doing this one day. Like there was none of that. So I think that's a really good and important point, is that like our intentions for it still are that way. And so I think that's why we still exist, is that our goal has never been, the carrot in front of our nose has never been like this certain dollar amount. It's always just been like, just to do it is enough.
Yeah.
Just to make this stuff is enough. Like I just as long as I get to keep playing, like I'm happy.
Right.
Whereas I think a lot of the kids that are starting brands now, they're like, well, if I make $100,000, I'll be happy. If I don't, then it's not worth it.
Yeah, then that's the wrong.
Which is totally the wrong attitude.
Yeah.
And you will last a little bit, but like you won't last for long.
Yeah, I mean, I tell kids, if you just want to make money, this is not the industry.
Is not it.
Yeah,
No.
Open a parking garage.
Yeah.
They make money.
Yeah.
Laundromats make money.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
Yeah. I say this all the time to people who are interested in starting a brand. There's passion for the art and the craft, and then there's passion for the profits. There's nothing wrong with either. But if your passion is the cash, you just won't be able to sustain the patience and stamina needed to make it work in this industry. You'll figure out eventually that there are easier ways to make more money. The only way to succeed in this business of hype is to love what you're doing. And then the money comes later. Maybe. You'll often hear on this podcast with other people that I've interviewed that even if they weren't getting paid a penny, they'd still be doing the exact same thing. I mean, would you would you put your money where your mouth is? And like if a kid was like, invest in me, would you invest in like a streetwear brand?
I would. I mean, yes, we've invested in streetwear brands.
Oh, okay.
I don't. If like a 18-year-old kid came to me and said I had some T-shirt designs, invest in my T-shirt, no, I'd tell them to come back to me in a couple of years. But yeah,
can you talk about some of the investments you've made?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd rather not.
Maybe not.
Okay.
There is a newer streetwear brand out there right now that is very popular that Ben and I have a part in.
I mean, we can say it off the record.
Okay.
Yeah, we're partners with the guys from.
Oh, okay.
So we have a chunk of there, and they're like a good example because they're total creatives, and they're like, all right, we need the back end. Like, we don't want to have a warehouse. We don't want to have accounting. We don't want to, like, you guys are good at that. Like, take care of that for us. So we take care of like all of the back end stuff for them, and they handle what they need to handle to make sure their business goes.
And what's that equity share?
I'd rather not share. I don't think they want us to say.
Okay.
But we have minority share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do all the grunt work.
Yeah.
And they're the face and they're the creative.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It works out well for everybody.
When you do these other ventures, Bobby, like restaurant, like magazine, stuff like that, like the documentary.
Yeah.
You're along for the ride?
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever say like, do you ever roll your eyes and just, can we just make T-shirts and hats, please?
Sometimes.
We were just talking about this the other day.
Yeah, we just had this conversation where Bobby's like, you got to tell me just to not do it.
Because my eyes, both of us, our eyes are bigger than our stomach always. And there's, I always feel like I'm running out of time. I don't know, I'm sure you feel like that too, but I feel like I'm just getting older and there's so many things I want to do. I want to make movies, I want to open restaurants, and so opportunities come my way or Ben's way, and I just take them. And, I'm like, Ben, are you in? And he's like, yeah, sure. But at some point I'm like, hold on, you got to tell me no, because some of these things are not profitable ventures. They're kind of dead end, Can you
recall where you pulled the card and kiboshed an opportunity that Bobby brought to you? Or it's all been yeses that you just roll?
No. There's been no's where it's. We just kind. I don't know where.
There's been one where we said no.
Washing machine, maybe.
Yeah.
Literally?
The brand washing machine. So like a year and a half ago, I started a brand called Washing Machine. Ben never told me not to do it, but I think at some point I was just like, I don't have time to do this right now. But it was just like a fun project. It was like it was based in 1993 when I was 13 years old, and it was all rave and punk influence. It was like a rave brand.
Yeah.
And I still think, we both think it's a good idea, but it's just like, who has time to run a rave brand right now? For fun, Again, like, I'm sure it'll make some money, but we can make much more money just, like, doing a cool collaboration with the hundreds, you know? So it's fun. I still do it. Ben knows this, but on my computer, I have, like, folders and folders of brands that no one will ever see.
Yeah. On
seasons 3 and 4 of product lines of, like, clothes that you would never imagine that I would want to make, Well,
I want to ask you about this because I also have, like, other brands,
brands,
in the roster ready to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think about starting them, but then I want to focus on the brand that we have now.
Sure.
But I'm wondering, do you guys think that brands in our industry have a inherent expiration date? Like there's Polo and there's, Tommy, like American menswear contemporary, but in the street or even urban, you could even go far as back if you go to like Karl Kani or, LRG or Fat Farm. Like, do you think that there can be a 50-year-old like, streetwear brand?
Stussy, right?
Okay. So that means so the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I
That's
think
good for everyone listening to this.
Yeah. I mean, look at to last as long as they have, the ups and downs that they've gone through, the discipline that you have to last that long. I mean, we're learning all these things along the way. We've been doing this now almost 15 years, and the roller coaster that we've had to ride over the past few years, for many years, our business was just going up. We're only growing, and that's not the way. If you want to last in business for 50 years, like you're not going to only grow for 50 years. Supreme didn't only grow for 50 years. Stussy didn't only grow. Bape, none of like the biggest and best brands in our world, they didn't only grow for 50 years, the whole time that they're in business. So, and we're learning that, and we're going through that, and we've gone through it, and to last, to have a good, long, successful business, you got to be able to go. You got to be able to. You have to want to take the ride. There are lots of ups, there's lots of downs, and I think that you can be a brand and last for 50 years. Yes, absolutely. It's very difficult, and there's fatigue. People get tired. That's like we started this brand in 2003, and our peers at the time, there was probably 20 brands around us that you included. We all started right around the same time. We all sat next to each other at the trade shows.
He was a little bit before us.
Yeah, you're a little bit before us.
Yeah.
I include 10 Deep too. They started a little bit before us.
Yeah.
But you come into the trade show right now, where are all those brands?
Yeah, I know.
They're not there.
Yeah.
I looked at the trade show map a couple weeks ago, and we were in a horrible spot. And I was like, I went to our marketing guy. I said, "Give me the map. I need to see it. Like, who else is at the show? Who else can we be around?" And I went around. I'm like,
never heard of any of these brands.
What the hell? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, there's not like a like-minded group of us in the show anymore. There's maybe 5,
right,
and there was 50.
The question is that drive or is that stupidity on our part?
Yeah.
Like, are we the stubborn idiots?
I know. I always think that too. I'm like, oh, we're the last ones here, and I'm like, wait, maybe that's bad that we're the last ones at the party.
Yeah, but we're the last ones. I mean, we want to be, but a lot of those brands, like, they don't want to be. They can't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's really like a marathon. It's like a stamina run.
Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah. And different things happen in different. This is not to say we're better business brand people than anybody else. There's different circumstances too, right?
Yeah.
Like I've known like some companies that have dealt with tragic things that have derailed them. We're very fortunate and privileged to not have to go through things like that. But it's so much stamina and it's so much heartache, more and more every year.
Mm-hmm.
Even on the winning years, you deal with so much depressing stuff and you're getting older, right? Like as people, and our priorities change, right?
Yeah.
When we started, we were going out every night in LA, and now like, what do I care about the most? I care about hanging out with my kids. Mm-hmm. Like teaching them how to ski, like playing basketball with them.
But meanwhile, you're still trying to sell,
and I'm still trying
to the youth.
I'm still trying to be cool to a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Which is entirely exhausting to like constantly have to worry about. I mean, I have like cousins that used to wear my brand and thought I was like the coolest thing, and then 2 Thanksgivings later they show up and they're wearing all Off-White and Fear of God, and they're a Supreme sweatshirt, and I'm just like, don't you want anything from the hundreds? Oh, that's okay, Uncle Bobby. And like, that's heartbreaking,
Yeah.
And then 2-3 years later, they come back and they're like wearing it again because, oh, you're like an OG brand now. You're like a legacy brand, and it's cool to wear it. Like, what? Weathering that, I know it sounds like maybe people won't really ever understand what that's like, but that's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard to see from like your own family.
Well, I think it's something that a young creative has to sort of forecast that like if you're trying to make something for you and your homies and your crew, you have to understand that you're gonna get older, you're gonna meet someone, you're gonna have kids, you're gonna, you know, need whatever, and can you still keep being relevant, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a hard balance.
Nobody ever thinks about that stuff.
No, I guess not, right?
Right? No,
Yeah,
when you're,
because you're young, you're always going to be young.
Yeah, when you're 25, you're invincible.
Yeah,
you're going
yeah.
to do this forever. You're going to last.
So that's
you're
why.
Gonna,
Yeah,
no,
that's why
I'm going to do it
listen
different.
To this. Yeah,
I'm going to do it different. No, you're not, man. Everything you've done, I've done. I promise.
Yeah.
It is something that no one ever thinks about is how is it going to end for you? Or, hey, you do get really successful at your brand. Like 20 years from now, you might not want to be associated with that, which is something that I learned working on that streetwear documentary. A lot of the older pioneering guys, it was hard to get them on record because it was actually kind of a weird, embarrassingly painful time in their life. Even if they did well, maybe they didn't exit properly, or it was just associated with some weird stuff that they weren't necessarily proud of. And so when you're 20, you're like, no, this is what I want to do. This is cool. It's cool. Like, no one is thinking how it's going to end. You know, no one's thinking like, well, look at how like started this conversation off with, like, no one really exits gracefully from this thing. You get squeezed out, you putter out. Even if you do sell for a lot of money, you're seeing your brand get distorted and pulled into all weird kinds of stores, and you don't have the same relationship with it anymore. And so you start like other cooler brands to kind of try to recapture that this is who I really am now, and that whole thing. Like, no one thinks about the end. They only want to think about the beginning. So and maybe it's better that way. Right? Maybe it's better to be naive, because if you really knew what it looked like at the end, maybe you wouldn't want to do it. You know, like no one would do this stuff. And so it's kind of romantic in a way, where when we started, we had heard all the stories, like Rick Klotz from Fresh Jive and Eli from Extra Large and all these guys, you know, even James Supreme and the Stussy guys, like told us,
warning you,
warning us, telling us stories, and we were like, Ben and I would always come back and look at each other and be like, yeah, but we're different.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to totally be, you know, we're the anomaly, and we're going to be like the Levi's of the game, and like we're here forever, our great-grandchildren, and we're always going to be cool, right? Like,
Bobby was like, yeah, but I have Blogspot.
No, I said that. Like I spoke at UCLA.
We have the blog.
I spoke at UCLA, and there was one of the first lectures I spoke at, and a guy in the back said, "How do you guys are really hot right now. How do you guys hope to stay relevant in whatever years?" And I was just like, "Well, I have a blog, and you know, people are interested in what I have to say,
right? And
so as long as you listen to me through my blog, we'll be cool."
Yeah.
And I never thought that social media was going to happen,
right?
You know,
right.
The next year Twitter started,
it's and then literally like an SNL skit. Like fast forward 3 years, like blogger goes
not
down.
Even. It was like 12 months later, Twitter launched.
Yeah.
And I'm literally looking at Twitter, going like, oh my God, blogs are dead.
Yeah.
And like convincing everyone in our company, like, the sky is falling, blog is dead, and they're like, no, everyone loves your blog. People will read blogs forever. And I'm like, why would you read my blog when you can read everybody's blog really fast?
Right.
You know.
And while you're having this conversation, Instagram is in beta.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's gonna read these 140 characters?
Yeah.
Exactly. And like there's so many things that are out of your control. We were meeting with Seth from Echo for a while, and he was telling us. He's like, do you guys know when you guys were starting, like our generation of streetwear, he's just like, Echo was hot and booming, and they were working on the world's perfect t-shirt. Like that was their big project one year. And it was ring spun, and it was fit a certain way, and it was like super soft and gourmet. And he's just like, we make this perfect shirt, and we're like, we're going to just win with this thing. And then all you guys come up with your open ends, all style apparel, Gildan shirts, and like, all of a sudden, kids are like, no, we want that.
Yeah.
We want the cheap,
starchy shit. Yeah.
Which just happened again with Kanye merch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're like, wait, we make really good cut and sew.
Yeah.
Why are you buying Gildan and like
leaving the label
refurbished, vintage store stuff, and just printing Pablo on it? And like that's what kids want, and that frustration of like, there's only so much you can control. Yeah. Right? Like,
remember the really days where like
control.
We would do a label change on tees, and it would be like, if they didn't do it under the tape, like it looked like, no, you have to make it look like a real shirt. So lift up the twill tape, put it back, and here's Kanye like leaving the Gildan label.
And kids want it. Yeah. Kids think Gildan is cool.
I literally I was just like, oh God.
But that's, we did it to the generation before us. He does it to our generation, and it's
the next one will want something different.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so you know, like there's so much like this naivety and ego when you're starting this brand of like, I'm invincible and I'm in control of it all. And I think when you start building the brand and going through it, you start realizing and accepting that you're just a part of this ecosystem. And sometimes you really do get to call the shots and your effect is going to circle around the ecosystem. But a lot of times it's just adapting and adjusting to what's going on, making sure that you're owning your own thing. And but like, it's not in your control. Like none of it is really in your control.
Well, thanks, guys. Anything else you want to add before we sign off? Anything to look out for in the hundreds in 2018?
I mean, we have a really big year this year. It's our 15-year anniversary, and so like we've got a ton of projects. We're working with artists that Bobby and I both have been fans of since we were kids. We're working with people that we've worked with in the past that we're excited to work with again. We're opening up a new shop on Fairfax in the next couple months.
Nice.
We have I'm like, both of us are very happy with where we are as a business and a brand right now. You know, like I was saying earlier, we've been in this long enough to now where like learning our place and how we want to run the business. And you know, I look at a brand like Stussy and you know how they've lasted for as long as they have, and I'm trying to have that. We're trying to have that discipline to run the business our own way, but you know, looking at them and seeing how taking the things that we like from their model,
right?
And we're implementing them and it's working, and we're in a. 2018 is like I texted Bobby yesterday like, all right, it's like Christmas, New Year's so slow. Like we're in 2018. Like let's go. Like let's get this. Let's get the ball rolling. Like I'm ready to attack the year. So, I think we're all excited. I think the whole company is excited for 2018.
Bobby, do you want to say anything to the Hypebeast commenters?
To the Hypebeast commenters,
Since
I
you're
love
on
you guys.
What'd you think of that? What'd you think of Bobby's article?
Oh, I love it.
Which one? The last.
The last one?
The article. Not the complex. I'm talking the state of streetwear.
Yeah, no, I thought it was spot on.
There was I can't believe the amount of people that clicked on that thing and read that article. It's unreal. Our site was crazy for a few days.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, Hypebeast also was crazy. High Snob, the amount of comments and the amount of
I didn't read the comments.
the comments at first were they were like, you know, it's always the same thing.
Yeah.
Bobby, loser, what are you talking about? Oh man, you don't know what you're talking about. Hundreds is irrelevant. You're irrelevant, you know.
Yeah.
And then like after like that first wave, people are like, wow, he's really spot on. Like thanks, Bobby. Thanks for writing this. Like you're
outside
you're
of
right.
the comments, whenever I write stuff, 99% of what I see is really positive, and it's coming from a lot of kids in industry, and it's kind of what I was talking about in the piece is that there is this outside of the spotlight, there are all these other kids that are feeling like they're disenfranchised and not being spoken to, and so I'm really doing it for them. And so when the people in the spotlight are kind of like, oh, I don't really get what he's talking about, it's just like, yeah, that's the point. Like, you're not supposed to understand what I'm talking about. And when a kid is like, yeah, you're irrelevant and your brand is irrelevant now, and no one, you know, that's why you're saying this because you're trying to stay relevant. And I'm like, that's exactly what I said. Like, I like being irrelevant because that means I'm in the underground. Like, what I was trying to say was like, to be mainstream and popular, you know, it's like the brand of the moment. But like, I've always performed better being in the underground, and I think streetwear is always more fun in the underground. There's always mainstream streetwear, and then there's like underground, and to me, underground is just being irrelevant and uncool and like unwritten about and unhypebeast, you know. And so there's more people out here, right?
Yeah, right.
There's much more people. There's much more interesting people. I'm one of those people. I was never really the popular kid. I didn't get into streetwear to be popular, so. As long as I can stay irrelevant, for me, it's better.
Yeah.
You know, like that's my audience. That's where I thrive. That's where I make my money. And that's where like my community is. It's like all the irrelevant people, like we're together. So, yeah, it was nice. I think telling the truth these days just goes a long way. For me, you know, I write stuff like that. I always pass it around the office first. Then everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. It's just like another Bobby thing, you know, just Bobby being Bobby, complaining and just like going off on a rant. and then it strikes a nerve with people, because I don't think that people see enough of the truth, right? And especially a lot of the brands in our space feel like their hands are tied because they have to play the politics right, or they have to appease like certain brands, like maybe they're held to a certain shoe company or like a certain sect of the streetwear circle. Like, we've always been on an island.
Yeah.
Like we are our own family tree. Like, we're kind of in everything but not, and so we have the freedom to say whatever we want. Like, I've always been that guy. It's kept me out of the cooler circles. It's kept me politically out of things, but I'd much rather have that freedom, and to be able to say what I want and to be free
transparent
than have to like watch out for people's feelings.
You sent a post after you wrote the article saying, I think it was a tweet that said like, if you like this, like you're talking to people in the industry, like if you like this post, you should write your opinion of this. Because nobody does. And I felt like you were talking to me and people,
I was talking to everyone.
You're in the industry. But you're right. I think like you are the transparent guy. That's like what you want to show to the people. And I think everyone else, myself included, is very curated. Right. Like we are very edited in what we show deliberately. And I sort of accept it. I'm just like, I can't, and a lot of it is because of like the allegiances that I have to make to
of course, that's part
brands,
of your business.
Influencers, corporations, what have you. But like, I unfortunately can't be that guy.
No, I know, but I've always been this guy. I've always been polarizing for that reason. Since I was a kid, right? Like, I was just always honest, or I just told it like it is, and it would like really upset people. It like severed a lot of friendships. It's still doing that outside of ComplexCon. It's like severing friendships. But I just don't know how to do it any other way. And like I was saying, I'm writing this book, and it's a business book, but I'm really talking about how we failed for most of it, which is like, why would you do that? Like, who writes a business book where you're talking about all the struggles and the hardships and all the times that you failed? But I think there's just so much more to learn from that. And like, I don't have anybody to impress, right? Like, I'm not here to like, I've been cool. Like, I don't need to like maintain this idea of cool. Like, I'm just here to make stuff. Like, let me just connect with people. And I feel like everyone talks about, like, we're doing a business of hype thing, and everyone talks in the business of hype world about like how much money they made and valuate, and like this brand's on top. It's like, let me tell you how it really is. Like, let's just be real for a second. Like, and every time I do that, it's so different. It just cuts through all the noise. Like, people want to hear that right now. And so I'll be that guy. Like, if, like I always say, like, it's bigger than me, so the work is bigger than me, and it's bigger than my reputation. So like, let me take all the arrows, like everyone come after me and point fingers, you suck or whatever. It's like, it's okay, because it's bigger than me. It's like bigger than my ego. Like, I'd rather give people the truth and tell people honestly, like, this is what it's like building a brand. It's awesome. It's hard. It's happy. It's sad. There's money. There's no money. Like, that's life.
Dope.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
That was very dope. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode with Bobby and Ben Hundreds, and I hope you're enjoying the new season of Business of Hype. You can find out more about this show and listen to other episodes at hypebeast.com/radio. You can subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. I personally use Overcast. And leave a comment. Tell me what you think of the show. And if you want, tweet at me. I'm at jeffstaple. You can check us out on the web at businessofhype.com, and you can email any questions to questions@businessofhype.com. And in fact, we're going to pull out the mailbag and field one more question. Our friend Dan Nevada, who's the director of the show, will come out from behind the booth and read one of the questions to me. You ready, Dan?
Yep. Hey guys, what's up? This week's question is from Justin McCarthy, PhD student, Lehigh University, Department of English. Jeff, I'm a student of African American literature, and I've always wanted to start a clothing brand dedicated to Black leaders, history, and pro-Blackness in general. My question is, do you think it is wise to create gear that will only resonate with a small percentage of the American public, or is it better to remain politically neutral and potentially sell to a wider market? Thanks, and love the show, my brother. Peace.
All right, Justin, great question. So I think that when you're starting a brand or a business of any sort, it's really important that you have a strong statement and a strong stance behind it, no matter what that might be. And it sounds like yours is very political and racial minded, person of color and a minority, which is great. I firmly believe in that. My philosophy personally is that in order to be the most effective about spreading that message to as wide of an audience as possible, you need to sort of mix in heavily politically minded messages with something more easily digestible and, dare I say, poppy. That sort of acts as like the carrot to get the audience in. And then once they're in and a fan of the brand, they can then start learning about some of the principles that you're trying to pass along. So I sort of like the subtle approach versus the hit him over the head with a big stick approach. And I'll give you an anecdote. So I did a live one-to-one conversation with the RZA once of Wu-Tang Clan, and he gave some amazing advice on stage. All of his songs are all of Wu-Tang songs are like about educating, and they have this funny quote where they say like the kids don't need to go to school, all they need is the new Wu-Tang album. But he said that every album, it was very conscious of them to put in a club banger, a Ice Cream or a METHOD Man. Like, they needed a club banger because they knew that the other 9 songs on the album were very political, were very, highly conceptual. And if they only put that out, nobody would ever listen to the album. So they purposely put out these little treats to get people in, and then they start educating them. And I thought that was just genius what RZA did. So I definitely apply that to what we do at Staple also. Our motto is a positive social contagion. It's kind of a heavy-handed motto, but our logo is a pigeon. It's a bird, and I think a lot of people can resonate with that. And then once they get into the brand, they start learning more about it. And so